to the Invisible Cabaret podcast. I'm Ferrera Rochelle.
And I'm Rosie Verbose.
And together we run Invisible Cabaret, a performing arts troupe dedicated to opening up the conversation surrounding mental health.
Join us as we talk to some of the most bodacious burlesque babes, cabaret creatives and inspiring artists about how their creativity and mental health intertwine. Let's pull back the curtain and strip away stigma.
Please note, we at Invisible Cabaret are not mental health professionals. If you're affected by any of the issues raised in this programme, we've made a list of resources for you on our website, www.invisiblecabaret.org/podcast/resources. Yes, welcome to the Invisible Cabaret podcast. Yay! It's that time again. We're so excited to be here chatting to you all. And I just feel like every week the guests just keep getting better and better and more exciting and more fantastic.
I know,
and I can't believe we've got so lucky. Our guest today is an international award-winning drag queen, burlesque artist and compere. She won Best Newcomer at the London Cabaret Awards in 2015 and since then has been in the top 15 UK burlesque performers, including number 1 in 2017.
Whoop.
She is also, the list, it just keeps going. She is also one of the founders of Sellout Show Lads and of renowned all-Asian cabaret collective, The Bitten Peach. Of course, it is the one and only Lilly SnatchDragon.
Yay!
Hello. Thank you so much for being here, Lilly.
No, thank you so much for asking me to be part of this. I think it's a really, really great thing to be doing. I really do. Yeah.
Thank you, Lilly. We're blushing. Shall we just dive right in? Should we just go straight for it?
Let's do it.
I think we should. Tell us a bit about your burly beginnings, if you will.
It seems like so long ago now, even though it hasn't really been that long. So I've always loved burlesque. I think I came across burlesque through like pin-up stuff because I really liked, usually it always starts with like a vintage pin-up that you just kind of like, you like the aesthetic and then you end up coming across like burlesque. And I ended up going to a show. So I went to university in Southend-on-Sea. They were doing an evening of burlesque there. And I watched the show and I was like, I love that. And at the time I was doing a course called World Performance at East 15 Acting School. As I was graduating, I was like, what I really wanted to do is I really wanted to do Shakespeare. I really wanted to be a Shakespeare actor.
Okay.
Yeah, it all just like, it all kind of went shit, basically. And I always had that back in my mind, so I really want to give burlesque a go. But in my mind, burlesque was for petite, size 8 to 10, and all I knew was classical.
Right.
All I really knew was classical burlesque. And then when I moved to London, a room became like free in the house I was at. And I put a call out on Facebook. And Miss Cairo, she then tagged Ruby with Three Wise Jones.
Uh-huh.
As we were talking and I was showing them the room, I was like, oh, what do you do? And they were like, oh, I'm a voice-over artist. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And they were like, yeah, I do acting as well. And I also do burlesque. And I was like, what? Because here was an amazing human that had a similar body shape to me.
Right, okay.
And they said, well, I've got a show next week. You should come. And I went to this show and Mr. Mistress, who is now known as Me, the Drag Queen, was on stage doing a burlesque lip sync act to How Much Is That Dog Into the Window?
Amazing.
And it was meant to be about equal marriage.
That's the most burlesque sentence that's ever been uttered, right?
Right?
I mean...
And I completely fell in love. So that's how I kind of got into it, because then Ruby moved in and I was like, I want to do that. And I want to mix all of these these different types of art forms that I've learned at uni and incorporate in. I want to incorporate traditional art forms. And Ruby was like, okay. So like you have 2 weeks to figure out a name. And then 2 weeks after that was my deadline to do my first act. And they threw me on stage.
Harsh
Amazing.
Taskmaster. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They were like, okay, here, do it.
So
Very
nice of
Ruby
Ruby just to drop onto the call there as well, just for a second. Uncanny.
Ruby and Miss Cairo really helped me. At that point, I had never even like changed in front of people.
Wow. Gosh, that's a journey and a half.
Yeah, I really did not like myself. I did not like myself at all. And they were just like, yeah, we're not having that. They just like Asian mummed me without even realizing that they were Asian mumming me. Yeah, honestly, that's how I kind of got into it. And then I just kind of like started doing like Ruby Jones reviews, like the Save Ruby Jones shows at Finsbury Park. And they helped me network and introduced me to some people.
Amazing.
And then I just kind of started, I started stage managing a lot. And that's how I really kind of like started to do things and meet people. Because the stage management really annoyed me at the time when I was watching, because at that point I was told that they were called kittens and that they were seen but not heard. And they were there to look pretty.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's shit.
Got all this progressive stuff going on one end and then that going on at the same time.
Yeah. So I was really confused about that. But that's how I kind of like got into a lot of like, that's how I met a lot of people. That's how I learned about shows. That's how I learned about burlesque, was stage managing for about 5 years. I stage managed on top of like performing, but I was more known for stage management. At that kind of point, I only gave it up like not too long ago. So, yeah, that's how I kind of like networked and kind of like made my way up.
That. It's very old school. It's very like paying your dues, and you know, like my dad, he was a singer in his youth, and he talked about sort of, you know, doing the hard gigs where there's like 3 people in, and that's how you sort of earn your chops. And
yeah, exactly.
Sounds very, very similar kind of to what you were doing there.
It was, because that was how it was kind of explained to me at the time as well. And also, if we ever went out to see gigs, I had to be in drag.
Okay.
I had to be in drag. And I was
that
never...
your rule or Ruby's
No,
rule?
those were like... That was like the family fierces rule.
Okay,
if you wear
nice.
heels, you can't take them off. You have to wear them until the end of the night. Like,
okay.
You can't take your makeup off. But in some ways, I'm really grateful for that, because it really helped with stamina of like being able to do a lot of different things. I'm very good at doing what I'm told. So I did all of that. But that's how I lot of like... And drag was just because I was around like... me and Lolo Brow, and we were all kind of learning and being around drag queens a lot was how I kind of picked up stuff.
That's proper like communal feel.
I was very, very lucky. Ruby and Miss Cairo kind of like pulled me in and introduced me to like Lolo Brow, Maxie Moore, me, and they really helped. I learned so much from just watching other performers and what worked and what didn't work.
I have a question. Considering that you first were very interested in Shakespeare, have you ever married the two?
I plan to.
You plan to?
Yes, I plan to. I will be working. If I say it, then I'm going to have to do it. I will be working on a one-woman show. Also, because Lily's kind of grown a lot. And Lily's changed a lot. Lily wasn't meant to be who she is.
Okay.
It all just kind of like fell into what what the audience really wanted. And that's how I kind of, and what the audience really liked. So I kind of went with that. And also because of the stage management, that's how Lily, Ty Lily really like evolved.
Yeah, okay, so can we talk a little bit about that? Because this is something I was busting to ask you. The whole character, there's a vehicle there for so much sort of political messaging and like all kinds of stuff. So how has she evolved as a character?
Well, Lily in general was meant to represent all of Southeast Asia, because we all, quote, look the same. And Lily is based on Western stereotypes of Southeast Asian women. So basically there was meant to be different types of Lily. So there was going to be a Chinese Lily, a Japanese Lily, and they're all meant to represent different things. So Japanese Lily was meant to be fetishization of like schoolgirl porn and like kawaii. For for like different types of acts. Chinese Lily was meant to represent suppression of women, and Thai Lily was mostly on like the stereotypes.
Right, okay.
When I started stage managing, Lily always spoke with an accent because she was meant to be fresh off the boat. My first act is Lily coming out of a Chinese laundry bag, who's like obviously been shipped over and is trying to find a husband or a partner for a British passport. That's kind of all changed because of Brexit and all that, but obviously this was like way before Brexit was even going to be even a thought. So she's also evolved in that way. And the thing is, at uni, the things I really hated was comedy and political theatre. Those were the two things I wasn't very keen on. And those ended up the two things I ended up doing. When I started stage managing, I was trying to be the seen but not heard performer. But then I noticed that a lot of the times with hosts, they don't really pay that much attention to setups or if you were even done. So like you would have someone do a massive water pour. You'd have to clean up the water pour, then set up for someone who's doing fire. Like there wasn't much consideration. It was just, you just get it done. Pick up the clothes and just move on and get it done. And I remember the host, I can't even remember who it was like, right, and for our next act. And I just went, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. You stupid white man. You think I'm ready. I'm not ready. I have too much to do.
Did the audience love it? I bet the audience
They ate it up.
Absolutely.
Ate it up. So that's how Lily kind of started like becoming then, people would then book me to be kind of like a co-host stage manager. At the time, it didn't really click. So they were basically getting a co-host for stage manager prices.
Right.
But at the same time, I was also learning a hell of a lot and I was networking. So I was planning my it was all good. So that's kind of like how Lily started to like grow. So the more I've noticed that the more that Lily performs, the less her accent gets. And eventually, which is where the Shakespeare comes in, is I'm hoping for my one woman show. Lily has 10 chapters. That's it. She's got 10 chapters. That's all. So each act, I've got about 6 acts now for Thai Lily. The 10th one, that's going to be a shotgun wedding. And Lily's, I don't know, I might kill her off. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, wow.
A literal shotgun wedding.
Yeah, I think she just has enough. But I want to end it on a Shakespeare monologue.
Amazing.
But I want to end it on a Shakespeare monologue where her accent changes all the way through. I haven't picked my monologues yet, but that's kind of like where I want to go. And then, I think she just might kind of like end it.
Wow. Can I ask, over the years, what's the audience reception been like?
Yeah, has there been a change there too?
Yes. There's been changes in how people interact with me. It depends where I do it, on where Lily comes from. But before, there was a lot of micro and macro aggressions. Mm. And there was a lot of ignorance. And the thing what I used to do with Lily is I never used to change my accent. Even after the show was over, if I came out, I still spoke in the Lily accent.
Uh-huh.
Just because I would, just for my own. And then people would be like, you were so good. And I'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then I'd kind of wait till they turned around. Then I'd be like, babes, could you get me a drink? I don't know what it is. I think I just feed off the uncomfortableness of white people.
Gotcha.
I just really enjoy, I'm like, sucking in when you get that realization on their face. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy it. So...
I love that.
Fair play. Yeah, follow your bliss.
It has changed because obviously people kind of know who I am now. So obviously the response is very different. And also a lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. So a lot of the times with my acts, they were just like, ha ha, funny Asian lady doing funny stereotypical Asian things. That's comedy. It's hilarious. And they weren't really seeing what I was actually doing.
Okay.
They weren't really thinking about the layers of the satirical layers of my piece. Yeah. But now it's with there being more awareness and people kind of like speaking out more. It's people. I think people are kind of seeing it now.
Okay, good.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. How does that feel for you as a performer in terms of always performing is a vulnerable act on some level, isn't it?
Yeah.
But especially if you're engaging with, what might end up in micro or macro aggressions or, with people not getting it. That must feel quite risky, no, in terms of like how you're going to feel doing the act and then afterwards?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've always grown up with macro and microaggressions, always. But the thing is I am actually half English, and I was raised very, very Western. So a lot of these aggressions, I didn't even resonate with me.
Right.
Because you're not told. You laugh it off. Always told. Even though your gut's going, I feel upset about that and I don't know why. I was always told, it's just joking. It doesn't matter. Shake it off. So I shook off so much of that kind of like ignorance and stuff. And when the people would be like, oh, you speak such good English, I'd be like, that's funny. Please don't do that. Like, I very much like kowtowed to a lot of it because it didn't even occur to me that I had a right to say something. And obviously it's a bit different now, because now I'm at the point where I do understand that these are microaggressions, and I do understand that what they're saying is racist or offensive, and I'm allowed to say no. And I think that's what's changed within Lilly as well. So I'm allowed to say no. And I'm allowed to change Lily's accent so it becomes more English if I want to. I used to get a lot of like, I didn't realise that wasn't your accent. Because I changed Lily's accent. It used to be a lot more, like, quotes, authentic. And then I changed it because I wanted it to be very cartoony.
Very obviously parody.
Very obvious parody, but people still don't see it as parody. I know, it's really funny. Like, I can see you're like, both your eyes are like, what?
It's bubbling.
And I get the same. When people are like, do you know what? I didn't realise that. And I was like, but so now I feel okay just saying, and how racist do you feel now about it?
Yes.
Amazing.
Like how does that make you feel? Going back to like people's responses, there's the only act that I don't really do anymore that does take a lot out of me is my chains act. It's based on a poem by Rachel Rostad. It's called To J.K. Rowling from Cho Chang.
I know the poem.
Right.
Infamous poem, yeah.
Ruby Jones actually sent me that poem, was like, have a look at this, check this out. And it was the first time I listened to something that kind of went, like, really punched me in the chest and hit me, and really resonated with me. And I sat on it for about 2 years. And I actually ended up doing a burlesque act for Cabaret Roulette at the RBT. And I actually messaged Rachel and asked if I could use the poem. And she said yes. And I mixed it in with Tina Arena chains. And I mixed it in, and it's, if you don't know what the poem's about, it's basically just about fetishization of Asian women and how J.K. Rowling chose to stereotype Cho Chang. And I do the act wrapped in 3 meters of chain on each arm. And I have a white person behind me. It has to be white, because it's gotta. And they hold the chains, and I strip while having these chains wrapped around my wrists.
Powerful stuff.
Thank you. It's super deep. And then in the end, I managed to break out from the chains. But then once the light comes back up, I'm in my own handcuffs. So I'm in a new set of chains. And the concept was meant to be that even though society and literature, movies all put me in this stereotype, even if I break away from it, I'm still, as Lilly, still chained to this stereotype. I'm still chained to the same stereotype. So that act is really hard for me to do. I get really emotional after that act. A lot of the times I do end up sobbing after it. So I don't do it very often. I actually upped the fee for it. One, because it takes 2 people to do. And also I upped the fee because I got tired of people wanting to book it in their shows to make their shows look woke. And they were just like, well, can't you just get someone else to do it? And it's like, no, I've got real 3-meter chains around my wrists that I'm like pulling on. It's choreographed, so no.
Yeah. Also, it just reminds me of a lot of the mental health acts that we do in the troupe. You know, it takes a lot out of you emotionally to write you up to your feet, because that's an emotional payment.
Yeah, I pick and choose who I do it for and when I do it.
And you have to make sure that you have a safe space for afterwards.
Exactly.
If it's gonna bring you to a point of sobbing,
Distress, yeah.
Yeah, then you've got to make sure that you've got emotional protection.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that have like come up after me afterwards and just been like, God, Lily, you made me cry. I'm like, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about you, actually. For once, I've done an act that is actually just about me and how I feel, and I'm sure how other Asian people feel. And it's very difficult when you do an act like that and you look up into the audience and literally all you can see is white faces. It's like, and they don't get it. They don't get it. They just feel bad. So then it makes them feel better because they feel bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That just sounds so expensive.
And must just be so exhausting, just in general, like that act in particular, but just in general, just a very exhausting experience to have to go through to perform to a sea of white faces who are not getting it, who are, throwing out micro and macro aggressions. Yeah.
I think the only time I did it was when I did it for the Bitten Peach. And of course the audience was majority were Asian. And that felt right.
Yeah.
That felt really right. And also when I've done it at the Cocoa Butter Club, that also feels right. Because they get it. The audience get it. Being a minority, you just get it. And I'm happy to do that because they understand it. They understand that like the labor's worth it, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And then it can become something of empowerment again, can't it? You're taking your voice and using it type thing.
Yeah, because even though if you can't fully relate to it, there's still something that you can connect with, which is always priceless for me, especially when the audiences are majority white.
Do you have sort of like aftercare practices or anything that you do to sort of gird yourself up for that kind of thing?
Do you know what? I didn't, because I never really took my mental health very seriously.
Okay.
It was just one of those things where I was like, okay, it's done. Shake it off.
Okay.
Move on. Like, brave face. That's it. Happy face. Even after I would like go backstage and like I would suck it in. I'm a big fan of suppressing stuff. A huge fan. A huge fan. Even like getting diagnosed with PTSD last year, but it took 2 years for me to literally have a nervous breakdown for it to come up.
Bless you. Okay.
So for acts like that, I've taught myself to, you're at a show, you've got face, you've got a face on.
Right.
Can't cry with a face on.
Which is a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Exactly. It really is. But then it is nice when I did do it at the Cocoa Butter Club. I remember finishing the act and I literally went backstage and just sobbed. But I didn't feel bad about it because I felt like I was in a safe space to be able to do that.
Right, exactly.
While we're on the subject of mental health, Lily, how has that journey for you intersected with your creativity and your art? Are there ways in which the performance has empowered your mental health or detracted from it?
A mixture of both. Definitely a mixture of both. I think it's so difficult because finding cabaret and burlesque and drag boosted my mental health in a sense of understanding who I am. I didn't come out till I was 25. So I always knew that at the time I thought I was bisexual, and I knew from a very young age. But it was in your head, you're like, oh no, it's a phase, because that's what they tell you. It's a phase, isn't it? Yeah, it's difficult because mental health wise, it helped because it allowed me to become who I am and realize who I really am, and made me realize how much I was hiding from. But at the same time, because I didn't go to university till I was 25, like at that point, before I went to uni, I was engaged to a cis man.
Wow, a whole other life.
I was working, it was literally on it. I was working as a receptionist and we were engaged, and it was to the point where I was putting fresh cut flowers in the bathroom and we had display towels. Because that's...
Oh boy, that is a whole other life.
Right? Isn't that what heteros do? You just like put display towels.
Straight culture.
I was like, okay, this is what happens. This is what you do. So I kind of played the role because that's all I knew how to do. And also, since I had mental health issues from a very, very young age, I would always put on a mask. Always. Every day from when I was 12. And I would say to myself every day, I was like, today I'm going to be happy. And then the next day, today, I'm going to be bemused.
Okay.
So I would practice bemused. Uninterested today. Today I'm just bored. I'm tired today. And I would practice different things, even though inside I was like plotting ways to kill myself.
So young as well for that to be your experience.
But it didn't really click then. So it was just like one of those things where, like, yes, being part of like the drag thing, I was still putting on masks. And my career meant so much to me because I decided that, like, because I was going to be married if I hadn't left and gone to uni and like joined the theatre circus. And because I had an opportunity at such a late age of like what I thought was late, I just kept putting masks on. So it didn't, in some ways, because I was really grateful that I had a career. And also I convinced myself in my head that because I was getting such great response with Lilly and like winning that award in 2015, when I'd only really been doing stuff for like about a year and a half, I was like, obviously Lily's better. Lilly is better as a character. She's more fun. People love her. Her makeup's great. She's fierce. Because obviously on stage, like, I still at that point hated stripping. But then when you're on stage, it's too fucking late. So
I mean, fair play, yeah, true.
it's too late. So you can either take off your clothes and be shit, which isn't an option for me, or you go on stage and you fucking slay it, which is what I decided to do every time. Doesn't mean I liked it, and I don't have any confidence, but it's all acting, isn't it? It's all a face. It's great on one side, and it really helps with my mental health and a sense of giving me the confidence and allowing me to accept my body. But then at the same time, Lilly masked my true disgust for who I am as I call it, pedestrian. I was nothing. I was nothing without this character. Despite the fact that this character is me and this character came from me, all performers have got like some kind of thing that they're overcome. They're either like alcoholics or you know they do drugs, or there's always something that then gets to a point where you're just like, I don't know, we've all got mental health problems. It's one of the three. It's always
yep. Do you know where the sort of pivot point has been between, because obviously if you're suppressing something, you don't know you're suppressing it, generally speaking, do you? I mean, you might on some level, but not consciously properly.
Yeah.
So when did that start shifting for you? I mean, did you do a therapy route or anything like that? Like, when has your mental health started kind of becoming something you take care of?
So my dad passed away. I'm going to get upset now because obviously it's like,
bless you.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry.
fine. Honestly, it's fine. He passed away in 2016 from stomach cancer. And basically, if it wasn't for me, the drag queen, and their husband, Joe, I wouldn't have gotten to see my dad. They basically paid for my flight to go and see him. And I flew over, I think I got there on December 23rd, and I literally had to watch my dad die. So this was in Laos. So it was like, there's no Macmillan. He wasn't in a hospital. He was at home. And my sister and I were his nurses. And then I had to like close his business down. I had to call the embassy and tell them that they'd passed away. I had to do all these things that I didn't know I was going to have to, and people didn't know that he was sick. Like, he didn't tell anyone. He had stage 4 and he didn't tell anyone. So it was really heartbreaking going through all that. And I got back at the end of January. By the first weekend of February, I was performing. I went straight back into work.
Wow.
I went straight back into work. I'm a workaholic. Like, that's what I do. Until very recently, I had a full-time job, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, and then I did up to 6 shows a week on top of that. So that's what I do. I work because it covers everything up. Then you're busy.
Yeah.
If you're busy, you can't think. If you can't think, then you can't feel. If you can't feel, then it's cloaked. So you don't have to think about anything. It's just completely masked. But I didn't deal with my dad's death at all. And then for this 1-year anniversary, I went back. I went back to Laos. And then I started getting like visual migraines, but I didn't realize that there were visual migraines. And I had no idea. I literally had no idea. My understanding of my mental health has happened within the past 2 years. For years, I would wake up in the morning and I would vomit. I would retch. I'd retch in every morning, and I would like vomit. There's something in my stomach because I haven't eaten anything.
Right.
I didn't realize that that's what anxiety was. No idea.
Why would you know if no one's pointed it out and been like, that's anxiety? You don't know, do you? No.
I just figured it's because I was tired. What it was is I was burnt out because I was working full time and doing all these shows and trying to be the best Lily that I could be. I had a massive nervous breakdown. And I think it kind of kicked in when I'd already cancelled one show, and I was having a panic attack as I was packing for another show. And I remember I was in this room and I was packing my stuff and I was sobbing and I was saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And all I was saying over and over again was, I can do it, I can do it. As I was packing each thing and I was shaking and I was sobbing. And Mark Anthony, who is my wonderful fiance, came in and went, stop. And I went, no, I can do this. I can do it. And they were like, no, you can't. And I just lost it. And I literally just curled up in a ball and sobbed nonstop for about 2 hours. Mark had to like cancel the gig, which I was so ashamed about, because in my head that was, you don't do that, because obviously you're a freelance performer and you're kind of told certain things that you can't cancel a show. You don't cancel a show. And even in drama school, if you can walk, you can work. I've done shows where I've had a fever, like a full-blown fever and coughing, but because I was asked to host at the Hippodrome for Polly Ray, I still did it on my birthday, full fever, and performed my arse off as if nothing was wrong, because it's mind over matter, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a badge of pride as well, isn't it? Once you've done it, you're like, oh, get me. Yeah,
I could do anything. My physical health and my mental health didn't matter. It didn't matter until that moment where I just couldn't do stuff. I signed up for therapy, and I'm still in therapy, which is really good. It's very, very, very slow process, because even when I'm at therapy, I don't want to give off as being weak. If you cry, you're weak. If you're upset, you're weak. And that's what I've told myself for years. So I'm still trying to break down all this kind of like bits of stuff. I'm on anxiety meds, which I take every day.
Are they helping?
Yeah, I mean, they do help. I still get, what the best thing that's happened is because I'm learning how to communicate. And I think that's the best thing. I'm learning to say, I'm not okay today. I don't feel okay. And I don't know whether it is a generational thing. Like, I'm going to be 38 this year. So I don't know whether it is a thing where you just don't talk about it. I mean, plus on top of a cultural, like, where you don't talk about your feelings, because, you know, that's like, what? Why would you do that? My mum always thinks it's weird that I'm in therapy. But I'm just like, you need therapy. When my dad died, my mum literally went to the bathroom, vomited once, obviously because of the anxiety of the fact that her husband's just of 42 years or whatever has just died. Came out the bathroom, nothing since then.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Like, nothing. But I remember at the funeral, like, because when my dad died, it's like, you don't cry. Because if you get tears on the body, the spirit won't leave.
Oh, gosh, that's a whole nother level of pressure.
Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't allowed to cry. I started sobbing when they were just like, stop crying. You can't cry. You get tears on your body. Your dad's spirit won't leave. So, and at the funeral, I remember like her like elbow in my side going, stop crying. Stop it. Because you just don't do it. It's like normal. But I didn't know how else to grieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like a whole bunch of different things. But so it's like I'm breaking down each different layers, and I'm very, very fortunate that I have a very, very patient fiance. They're just teaching me how to communicate, basically. And I feel lucky that I have someone that I feel incredibly safe with to be able to do that for the first time in my life.
That's amazing.
That is
it's
wonderful
amazing
to
have
hear that.
Can I just thank you for being so brave and open and honest and candid with us? Like, that is, you know, you've been on quite the journey. And to be able to communicate that as concisely as you have, that is a thing all of itself. Yeah. But then also to be willing to let all of this out with us I think you're doing wonderfully,
Thank
Lily.
you. I appreciate that. But I also feel like I'm bored of being quiet now, especially with social media and I put up all these like excellent, like amazing pictures of me that have like filters or photoshopped or whatever. And I don't want people thinking that that's my life or, at all. I don't want people thinking that this is how they have to be. I don't want that for anybody, because it's so nice to know when you're not on your own. It's the nicest feeling when you know you're not on your own anymore, and there are other people that feel the same way as you. And I don't want people to feel like they're on their own, because that's when things go wrong, isn't it?
It is.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
that
takes it's not just a big heart, but it takes a lot of courage to stand out and be what might feel like the first person out, sticking their head above the pulpit or whatever, to be like, this is what's happened to me. And, I'm so thrilled to hear that you've got this supportive fiance in Mark. And without those supportive people, it becomes a whole nother level of difficult, doesn't it, to pursue your health and feel like you're worth that journey, or it's a very complicated process, but it takes a very big heart to stand up and be the person saying, this is what I've experienced, so you're not on your own either. So thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me a platform to be able to do that on. And I think it's really, really amazing that you have a podcast like this that is going to allow people to listen to different types of stories and different journeys where people can find something to identify with, because that in itself is like really admirable. And I'm very, very grateful to the both of you to have thought of me to be able to do that. So, you're also doing, the fans of burlesque and burlesque performers and other performers and all performers, like, an opportunity to go, oh God, yeah, me too.
I hope so.
And that's the nicest thing.
The goal.
Yeah, and that's the nicest thing.
We have got to the point in our podcast where we like to talk about what we're grateful for this week. Firstly, as I've said, I'm so grateful that you've been so candid and open and honest with us. It's just been lovely. Would you like to say what you're grateful for this week, Lily?
For this week, I am so grateful to my Bitten Peach family, especially after the shootings in Atlanta. That happened on the 17th, and since there has been quite a lot of like Asian hate around, especially since COVID as well. But I'm grateful to them because we have like a little WhatsApp chat, and to be able to kind of word vomit your feelings with no judgment to also people who say, yeah, me too, or the same, or you're being unreasonable, is great. So I am very, very grateful to this collective and my family, my Asian family, that make me feel so at one with myself. It's really nice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we've not even blooming talked about the Bitten Peach.
No, sorry, I've just talked about myself.
We'll have to do a part 2. That's all there is to it.
If you'll have me back.
With pleasure. That's really lovely.
Rosie for Base, what are you grateful for this week?
It's a small thing, but you know what? It's brought me such joy. This week, as we're recording, it's just beginning to really feel like spring. And there is a cherry blossom tree in my next door neighbour's garden, and it is just beautiful. I've been watching it every day. It's been one of the first things I've been excited to like look out the window and see every morning and be like, oh, how many flowers are there today? And it's gorgeous, and it's bringing me a real sense of joy and hope. And I know it's cliche, and I don't care.
I love it. Yes, it sounds like I love cherry blossom trees. They're so pretty. There's something so pleasing about them.
Oh, definitely. Don't know what it is, but I'm having it. Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Freya Rochelle? What are you grateful for this week?
I'm grateful for running. I'm grateful for the exercise of running. I used to run all the time. When I lived on my own in London, it was the only thing I did to pass the time. I used to do like 3 10Ks a week.
What?
I was just
That's
absolutely
a lot,
going, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was very unwell. Like I was living on my own. I was very lonely, and it was the only thing I could do. So it was, it definitely wasn't a good thing. But I felt great at the time for doing it. Anyway, I've had a very on again, off again relationship with running, and I thought it was great for my mental health. But then I started to get far too competitive with it. It was like, no, I can't do it. But the other day, I just decided I was going to go for a run, and then I somehow ended up running 5K, and I felt amazing. And then this morning I got up and I was like, I'm going to run a 5K again. Why not? And it just felt great.
You are a superhuman.
Good. That's great.
Thanks. I felt so good. My legs hurt.
Yeah, I bet. I was about to ask, how did your legs feel?
Not good. They're really sore. I mean, it's a bit of a joke. My partner's been running every day for 75, 76, 77 days or something. And then there's me like, I ran every other day for 3 days and my legs.
I've already told you that your antidote for this is just try and run next to me. You can do 5K, I'll do 5 seconds, and then you will feel very smug indeed. And quite rightly.
So we've got some gratitudes from people online, which is very exciting. We have one from the lovely Andrew, who says that he is grateful for making it through the week, sleeping in and having some excellent coffee. Hannah says she is grateful for the time, will and patience to cook and experiment with new recipes. And then we'll finish up this week with some wise words from Little Rocket. If all else fails, be grateful that your nose isn't blocked by a cold, because we all know that as soon as it is, you'll wish you appreciated it more. I'm very much on board with that. Thank you guys for sending in what you're grateful for this week. We really appreciate it.
I love a roundup of gratefulness. I'm a big fan. I love it. If you wherever you are listening, I was about to say at home, presumably you're at home, but wherever you're listening, if you would like to get involved in the Grateful Chat, you can send us what you are grateful for any time of the day or night. What we do is we stick it in the ephemeral grateful jar, and we'll bring it out next episode. So if you do have any messages of gratitude, then send them our way. Lily, thank you so much. It has been just a real treat and privilege to speak to you today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much once again for having me. It's been really wonderful. Thank you. I had a lovely time.
I think this is a lovely beginning of a lovely friendship, I think, as well, if I may say. I'm saying it, so I'll prophesy it into being. That's the aim.
Manifest,
I've said it. It's like the Shakespeare one-woman show. If I've said it, it has to happen now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't make the rules.
But only next time, let's have food.
Oh, good plan.
Yeah,
good
dim sum.
plan.
Let's do some dim sum.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to hear more from Lily or even see her perform at a real-life COVID-conscious venue in the near future, you can keep up to date by checking her Instagram, which is at Lilly Snatch. We've added a couple of quick links in the show notes for your convenience. Thank you very much to our listeners for joining us once again. It's been a pleasure to speak to you all, as always. If you want to reach out and chat to us, if you want to send us what you're grateful for, if you want to just chat to us for whatever reason you fancy, we'd love to chat to you. You can contact us on all of the socials: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I say all the socials, we're not on TikTok.
Oh.
Does that count as a social these days?
Is the tiki-toki?
Never say never, right? But I mean, not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
So not never,
not
but not now. Yeah.
Yeah. You can also contact us via email at invisiblecabaret@gmail.com, and we've got a treat for you because we'll be back with you on Monday the 26th of April. That's in 3 days' time. We'll be back in 3 days' time with a special episode for World Burlesque Day. Until then, be safe and be kind to yourselves, guys, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye. This has been the Invisible Cabaret podcast. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please reach out to us on one of our many socials. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search Invisible Cabaret. We'd also be grateful if you could rate and review the podcast and share it with a friend so we can continue stripping away stigma together.